Hello, this is Hui. Welcome to watch my video C++ programming on Linux. In this short video, we are going to make a demonstration how to build a simple Qt SQL database browser. Here on the Qt creator, we just made a very simple design. So we have a Windows. And with menu and the file, we have one control called the connection to DB and the exit. And when we trigger the connection to DB and we have design, our view has one is the tree widget control, which we are using to display the database tree. Once we make a connection, we are going to display the database name and the table under this control. Here is the table view, which we're using to display the SQL query result using the table. Here, there's other control is called SQL is a text editor, which we're going to use for this write the SQL statement, and we have two buttons. The button clear, which will clear this, and the button submit, and submit the query and display result under this control. So most important for this simple application is connection DB, and so when this is triggered, which is this action is triggered, and we go to slot when this is triggered, and they come to program. So what we do when we trigger the connection DB, first we are going to invoke a dialog called the SQL connection dialog. SQL connection dialog looks like it's a simple dialog where we input the database name, username, password, host name, and power name. And then we click OK and cancel. So after we invoke this, we run this. If this is dialog execution not equal accepted. So if equal accepted, it means we click the OK button. So if not equal accepted, we are not going to do the DB connection. So if we accept it, so we are going to, if DB is open, we close. The DB is our class member, which called the Qt SQL database DB. So Qt SQL database is a basic database for Qt database APIs. So in order to use this, we have in the project file to plus SQL, we have to include Qt SQL database header files. So here in the project file, we have to include add SQL, and in our header file, we have to include the field of Qt SQL, SQL database, error, query model, and query, and this is a Qt SQL connection dialog, which is our dialog for connection database. So close this back to our browser. So if DB is open, we close, so we reconnect, and then we are going to clear the tree, which is the DB database tree, and then we call the function called the connection DB, which using the pass the parameter is driver name, database name, host name, username, password, and the part, which we are getting input from this dialog. Driver, database name, username, password, host name, and the part numbers. So if this one return code is called RC, if RC equals 0, it means we successfully connect to database, and then we're going to call the function called the display database tree, which we are going to we make a display database and all the tables under this control. So to the connection database, this is a connection database. We pass all this driver host name, and so what we use, where our DB equal database, we use in the function add database and the driver and the connection strings. So here in the class we have a add database name, add base driver, and default connection name. So this connection name we can name anything just for identify and all that. And let's go back. And after we get the instance database object, so we DB, we set up using the set database name, set host name, set part name, we get from the dialog, and then we're going to use DB open with user and the password. So the DB open with the user and the password. This method doing open the database connection using given username and the password. So this is so if not open, so this one returns true on success, otherwise false. So if this is not true, it means we not connected, so we get the error from the DB last error, and then we just show the message and the error, the text, what the error is in the status bar, and then we just remove this database, which we just added, we just remove from our list. So this is a connection, and the other control what we interesting is the button submit query. So this one, this writer goes to slot, and after this button clicked, what we do? First, we're going to instantiate the pointer of a Qt SQL query model, and because this table view is using the Qt model view method, so we have to start a model called a query model, SQL query model, and link to this table view, and this model we are going to set the query, which is the query is from the SQL editor, which is editor with to the text. So we're going to get a query from this editor, and we set up instantialize the query model using this table view link, table view. So let's go back, and then we're using the table, this table view, which is a set model with the model we get from the query, and then we just displayed the query what we got. So in this design, when the clear button is clear, when the clear button go to slot, when this clear button is clicked, what we do? We our SQL editor, which is the text editor, with a clear, and we set forecast again. And other things we do, if we have a menu, if this exit is triggered, so it's action of this exit triggered, go to slot and the triggered. What we do, we just do this close. We just close this dialog, and there's a. So now let's compile, save all, Okay, it's built. It's run. So this is our browser. So make this. So now when we click a file to connect to database, connect DB, so we can first we have to select driver, depend on the which database. Select a Qt SQL, which PostgreSQL driver. In the Qt database application, here is a SQL database driver. The Qt SQL module uses driver plugin to communicate with different database API. So this is special for the Qt SQL module. It's using plugin driver. So since Qt SQL module API is database independent, so all the database specified code is contained within these drivers. So it's a database independent, and we have to use the driver plugin. So Qt supported database is drivers QDB2, which is IBM DB2, and here is all the drivers supported database. And the Qt SQL is the PostgreSQL, and QMySQL is the MySQL database, and QOCI is the Oracle database driver. So here on the Linux I, and on the server 102, we have a database called YHDB, so PSQL YHDB, and so with DB we have a table. This DB we have only one table called player, and this table has ID, name, membership, and we can use select ID, name, gender, level, status, from. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 record. So let's see our application. So we connect this, the database name called YHDB, username, and the password, host name, which is 192.168.0.102. So we click OK. So you can see we get connected. We got a message successfully connected to database. And this database tree, we have one player. So this is the now we try to write a SQL as select star from, and we click submit. So you can see we get the table views, and this is the database we selected. Make it a little bigger. So if we put a where ID equal 4, then we click submit, and we got a, and so this is a basic simple Qt SQL browser, and here we have one first instance. So the please note that the DB2, MySQL, Oracle, and the TDS client driver are not distributed with open source edition. So my Qt creator is open source edition, so I don't have a MySQL database driver. Otherwise, we can connect to the MySQL database to do the exactly same thing. And hello, this is Hui. Thanks to watch my video. Hopeful this is useful, enjoyable. It's going to be great to have your feedback.